To start with, I'm going to do a little quibbling here. It should say ex-Professor Guy McPherson, but he's introducing himself and says, thank you for the opportunity to deliver this presentation. It's truly an honor to be in front of you, along with the others in this symposium today. Okay, he doesn't say who he's with. He doesn't say the name of the symposium. But when you have an introduction like this, the implication is that you are presenting at a symposium where you are presenting to other scientists, that you are there because your work is respected in the scientific field. But when you look at the description here, it gives no information as to what the symposium is, just that it's December of 2021. So if you actually go to his page, his website, it's the World Meeting Guardians of Humanity Symposium. So let's have a look at what they're all about. So this is the Guardians of Humanity website. If you click on who we are, it goes to this page. Same thing with events, goes to the same page. And it's about people who talk about bioenergetics, out-of-body experiences, multiverses, relationship between man and universal consciousness. It all started with elite training in the astral dimension and a great challenge in the physical world. So he is not presenting to scientists. He's not presenting to anybody that has scientific understanding. This is who he's presenting to, people who pretend they live in other dimensions and whatnot. So that's a little bit of quibbling, but by not being upfront about that on his YouTube page, that means that anybody that stumbles across this video thinks that he's probably presenting to an audience of scientists, or anybody who embeds this video in their website is kind of also suggesting that. I'm looking at you, Michael Dowd. So let's go on and talk about the actual science that he's trying to present, specifically about climate change. Okay, one of the main things that I'm taking issue with here is claiming that we have already passed 2 degrees Celsius above the 1750 baseline. And he's citing Sam Carana here. If you've seen the other video on my channel, the only other video, it's on who Sam Carana is, not a scientist, not somebody you want to cite if you want to pretend like you are doing actual science. So we're looking for that April 2nd, 2017 post. I've brought up all the April posts from the Arctic News blogspot page. And if I scroll down, I don't find an April 2nd post, first of all. So the date is incorrect. There's an April 1st post talking about media bias. And then the next post after that is April 5th. So that post doesn't exist. At least it's been removed. But if we look at what's kind of on this April page, Sam Carana's talking about anomalies and trying to pretend that the anomalies are normal, whatever. He's like, ooh, 412 parts per million. It's like, we're well past that now. And guess what? The extinction hasn't occurred yet. But I noticed a few things here. Like, again, he's taking anomalies and presenting them as if they are, he's trying to fit all these polynomial trends. He's obsessed with polynomial trends. But I think some other things that I saw on this page that were kind of interesting. Where was it? He's going to say that blue ocean event by September 2017. Arctic sea ice could be gone. That didn't happen. Again, he's trying to add all these polynomial fits. None of it really makes sense to anybody who knows what they're talking about. So let's just kind of discard that one. Go back to the video here and look for the March 13th one, which is easy to find. Sam claims that 2C has been crossed. And how does he present evidence for this? Well, he says that, again, he's putting a polynomial trend on it, but he claims that he needs to adjust it by 0.78 degrees Celsius to reflect a 1750 baseline. But that never needed to be done. So basically he's like, yeah, if we shift everything up 0.78 degrees Celsius, then that takes us basically from about 1.2 up to about 2 degrees Celsius. But the scientists don't do that because they don't need to, because they know where the baseline is. Let's have a look at his prospective rise in temperatures. And if you look at, this post was made in 2020. He says we're already at 2. 2021, we would be at almost 3. Didn't happen. 2022, almost 4. Didn't happen. It's 2023 now. We're supposed to be, according to this projection, almost 5 degrees Celsius warmer when you add these things up. Did not happen. So again, you can't cite this guy right here. You can't cite him. He's just completely not sensical in any way. So I'll move past that on to the next thing. So the next thing worth mentioning is where he starts to talk about aerosol masking effects. So decreasing industrial activity leads to even more rapid heating through loss of aerosols. So I want to make sure that rapid heating is emphasized here, because that leads into the next paper that he cites. So I'm going to pause the recording while I skip to that place in the video. So he's talking about global dimming as pointed out by Levy and colleagues in the May 20th, 2013 issue of the peer review journal. He has to make sure that he's showing you that he's using real peer-reviewed stuff, right? This is all really reputable science. Saying as little as a 35% reduction in industrial activity will cause a 1 degree Celsius global average temperature rise. And, remember that he just talked about a rapid warming, that this rapid effect. Let's look at Levy et al. And it talks about the role of aerosol. This is, January 2013, atmospheres, Levy et al. This is the one. And what it talks about it will result in roughly 1 degree of additional warming. Here's the key part, by the end of the 21st century, which does not line up with what he's talking about in terms of rapid. I mean, this guy doesn't think we'll even be around then. So he's trying to twist this to say something that he very easily could have put 1 degree temperature rise by the end of the 21st century. But he didn't. He cut it off there because he's trying to push this rapid warming thing based on the aerosol masking effect. And that paper certainly doesn't support it. So he also references this paper here by Gia et al., 2021 Nature Communications. Again, he says it's renowned, right, because he wants you to think that this is a super high-quality paper, and it actually is a super high-quality paper. But the thing about this paper is that what it's saying is not what Guy claims it is saying. He doesn't understand what they're even talking about in this paper. And the quote he pulls here, significant underestimation of radiative forcing by aerosol cloud interactions derived from satellite-based methods. It says, according to this paper, in the renowned Nature Communications, aerosol masking accounts for a 55% increase in overall planetary heating if we lose the aerosol masking, which, according to James Hansen, the godfather of climate change, will happen within 5 days after the aerosols are released. So we'll explore that in a minute, but first let's go take a look at Gia et al. Let's look at what the actual paper says. So let's have a look at this paper. You need to scroll down only as far as the second paragraph of the introduction to see some pretty important stuff that Guy either missed or misunderstood or he knows it's there, but it doesn't fit his narrative, so he's not going to share it. So we're talking about the fact that these satellite measurements are not terribly accurate and need to be improved. That's what the whole paper is about, that the satellite measurements need some work, but they're still generally lower than modeled values. Now, this is very important, right? And it's saying that it's essential to reconcile significant differences between what we see in the satellites and what we see in the models. Because what we have in the models is not what's in the satellites. The satellite is This satellite data is not used in existing models. So the fact that the measurements are not accurate doesn't change anything about our models. And that's super, super important. And here, down in the next paragraph, Ma et al. Found that low aerosol loading conditions are not well detected by satellites, but modeled clouds are sensitive to aerosol perturbations in these conditions, which contributes a large part of the difference of cloud susceptibilities derived from model and satellites. Right? But we're talking about two different things. And just to reiterate that we're talking about two different things, here we're talking important implications for satellite-based estimates. To confidently interpret past and predict future climate change, the current significant discrepancy between satellites and model-based RF ACI has to be reconciled. So again, we're talking about two different things. Our models are not based on these satellites, but if we want to maybe incorporate this satellite data in the future, we need to improve the way that we are doing it. And that's what this entire paper is about. Even if you look at the title, Significant Underestimation of Radiative Forcing by Aerosol Cloud Interactions Derived from Satellite-Based Methods. But let's go back to what Guy was saying, that it says it takes 5 days for aerosols that are protecting Earth from considerable rise in temperature. They fall out of the atmosphere within 5 days. When that happens, according to this paper in Nature Communications, aerosol masking accounts for 55% increase in overall planetary heating, 133% over land and 33% over ocean. Most of us live on land. And so we will experience a very rapid rise in global average temperature, more than 1 additional degree of heating in a very short period of time. He's talking about within 5 days. Now let's explore that, because we had kind of an analog for this, maybe a smaller scale, but when we had lockdown in March of 2020, we ceased a lot of industrial activity. We ceased a lot of transportation. We ceased a lot of these aerosol producing activities. So let's go see what the studies say about changes in temperature when lockdown happened. So here we have a study, Impact of COVID-19 Induced Lockdown on Land Surface Temperature, Aerosol, and Urban Heat in Europe and North America. And this also nicely summarizes other studies about the same thing. And so it's talking about, basically, it's comparing temperatures March through May of the pandemic year compared to the mean of 2015 through 2019. So we're basically seeing what effect lockdown had. And LST, land surface temperature, the reduced land surface temperature was corroborated. And so we've got a larger decrease in nighttime land surface temperatures compared to rural landscapes. We've got generally all of the measured areas were actually cooler. And this is more than 5 days of a period. So if we're talking about a greater than 1 degree temperature rise within 5 days, we would have seen that during this time period if what Guy says is true. But let's take a little deeper dive into this. So this is nice and visual, and it is comparing the land surface temperature anomalies during 2020 with respect to the 2015 mean. So blue is cooler, red is warmer. So you can say, okay, well, daytime it's actually getting warmer during lockdown across Europe. Maybe that's because of this industrial activity ceasing. But if we look at the daytime anomaly in like the northeastern U.S., which is also heavily industrialized, it's actually cooler. So obviously the aerosols are not the only factor. And we have a lot of areas being much cooler, some areas being warmer depending on night and day, but it's not as simple as just aerosols. Some handy tables here. We can see what temperature changes we are. We have kind of a mix of positive and negative in the surveyed areas, and they have some kind of specific cities that they're mentioning here. I'm running out of time, so I need to hurry up, but this is a great paper. I recommend looking it up. And finally, a summary of other studies that have been looking at the same thing. So we're talking about decreases. Basically, most of these places, surface urban heat island decreased. We've got land surface temperatures decreasing to really significant amounts. We've got basically a lot of studies that are saying that he's full of it. So that's all I have time for.